Hello all, my name is Krishnayak and welcome to my YouTube channel. So guys, we are into the tutorial 4 of MySQL, and in this particular video, we are going to discuss about SQL constraints. So here you can see all the 3 tutorials. You can just go to my channel and search for MySQL playlist. You'll be able to get it. Okay. So in this particular video, we are going to discuss about SQL constraints, and this is super important. With the help of this, you will be able to design amazing databases. You will be able to interact with multiple tables, and a lot of things are actually there. Okay. So what are things we are going to learn in this particular session? First of all, we'll try to understand what is SQL constraints, and all the different kind of constraints that we are going to see are like not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, check, default, index, right? Now understand guys, many people are saying me, Krish, try to upload two videos every day. I am probably taking 1 day gap and uploading it. The reason why I'm doing it that because you can practice many things. In every topic that I cover at least 7 to 8 topics. Okay, so you really need to practice these things with respect to the syntax, with respect to writing the queries, how fluent you are. You have to think with respect to that, and you have to keep on practicing, guys. But don't worry, everything will get uploaded. Now let's go ahead and try to first of all understand what is SQL constraints. So SQL constraints are used to specify any rules for the record in the table. Constraints can be used to limit the type of the data that go into the table, whether the data can have null values, whether it cannot have a null values, whether it can have a unique values, whether it cannot have a unique values. All those things can be specified with the help of SQL constraint. It ensures the accuracy and reliability of the records in the table, and if there is any violation between the constraint and the record action, the action is aborted. That basically means if with respect to the constraint, if you're not able to, if you're probably inserting any records, and if there is something mismatch in this, that query won't get executed. So constraint can be column level or table level. It can also get applied to column. Table level constraints apply to the whole table. Column level constraints apply to a column, and table level constraints apply to the whole table. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's try to first of all see about the first constraint, which is called as not null. So here I am basically going to create a table. Now see guys how fluent I am in writing the queries. Why? Because I have practiced that much. So for that you also need to practice. Don't think that without practicing you will be able to get anything. Okay. So here first of all I am basically going to take an ID value which will be not null. Okay. So here I am going to basically use in capital letter, in small letter also you can use, but when you're trying to define some constraints, use capital letter, which is a good practice. But here I'm very much lazy, so I'm going to just use small letters. Now the first feature, the first column basically says that it is an integer column, and then it cannot have any null values. Then come on, I'm going to define my second feature, which is called as first name, which will be a varchar of 25 characters, and this will basically be not null. Okay, so not null, this is how we define. Okay, so not null basically says that okay, you cannot have a null value over here. Okay, so that also I'll be showing you in the schema. Then come, let's go to the third feature, which is like last underscore name, and then I will probably define this as varchar, and this will also I'll set it to not null. Okay, so I'm going to basically define it not null. Let's take one more feature, which is called as age, and this will probably be integer. Okay, and here I'm not specifying any constraint. I'll keep it like that only. Okay, so these are all my features. So let's go ahead and execute it. So for this I'll just go and press Control Enter. So no database selected as usual. I did not select any database. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say create database, which is called as customer. Okay, and this will get executed. So the database customer does exist. Okay, so I'm directly going to use this particular database. Okay, so use customer. Okay, so I hope everybody knows this, and probably you can actually use this. Okay, so I have used customer database, and then I'm basically going to create my first table, which is called as student. Okay, now after doing this, I am going to just go ahead and see my schema of this student, and probably with this I will be able to see a lot of information. So it says you have an error. Okay, so I did not probably select one. Always try to put semicolon. So here with respect to this particular constraint, guys, understand here I have the features id int id int id is the integer. Now you see null value, a null value over here it is said no. right? Because we had actually set as not null. If I had not set this constraint, this used to give as yes. Okay, that basically means it can have a null value. Now see this, the second feature has first name. Did we apply any constraint over here? Yes, we applied a constraint which is called as not null. Okay, so here you can see the null value is basically no. It cannot have any null value. Let's take the last column, age, integer. Here I have not applied any constraint. So by default, you can, not by default, so by, since I have not selected any constraint over here, that basically means I can also insert a null value in age. Okay, so this is super important because when you're designing a database, you should be telling that which all features can have null value and cannot have null value. So now let's go back to one thing like, okay, fine, I have probably made some changes in this and I want to now make this or add not null constraint in this age feature. Can I do that? Yes, I can definitely do that. Just tell me, just think over it how you can do it. Definitely, I've discussed about alter table, right? So I'm just going to write alter table student, okay? And then you can basically say modify age int to not null. So this is what is basically used, right? I'm just going to say not null. Okay, by this what I'm saying, alter the table, the student table, and I'm going to modify the age into not null. So once I go and execute it, and it will get executed, you can see that it has got successfully executed. Now I'm going to execute this describe student. Now here you can see that in age feature now you don't have any null values. Okay, that will, sorry, the value becomes no over here. Now whenever I want to insert any records, if I don't give a value, it will give us an error. Okay, I have to definitely give values for all these four features of all these four columns. Okay, so this was with respect to not null constraint. Now let's go ahead and try to understand about unique. Okay, now you need to understand one thing, guys, over here. When I create this particular table, okay, here I have specified id int not null. Okay, that basically means I can put any value in this IDs, but always understand I have to basically identify one unique value, one unique feature that will be unique to the entire record. And that I can basically set with the second constraint, which is called as unique. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to see how to do it. Let me just say that I'm going to create another table. So I'm just going to see the reason why I'm doing again and again, because this is for my practice sake also. I can quickly create a column. I can quickly create a table. I can quickly alter. That way I will be very much adjustable to the queries that I'm writing in MySQL. So here it is. I'm going to create a table person. And first of all, I'm just going to say ID int, which will be not null, let's say, by adding a SQL constraint. And then probably I will just use first name. Okay, and then this will be varchar of 25, and this will also be not null because I definitely want the first name. Okay, and then I will basically say last underscore name, which will be varchar again 25, which will also be not null. Okay, and probably I can also use age int, and let me just write it down that this will also not be not null. And now let's see where I have not still used unique, where I can use unique. Now I want a condition that ID value that I'm putting, it should always be a unique value. Okay, here I'm not incrementing it, but I definitely want unique value. Suppose if I am trying to insert a first record in person with one value as ID, and in the second constraint, suppose if I try to, probably change that particular ID, then it should get inserted. If I try to give the same ID, then it will not be inserted. So I will be using this unique constraint where I will be assigning it to the ID. Now see the magic what will happen once I insert the records. Okay, so here I'm going to just execute it. So here is what my table has got created. I will say insert into person values, and probably I will give the values like this. Okay, 1 comma crash comma Nayak, and then comma 31. Okay, so my age is 31. I do not shy to say my age. Okay, once I execute this, now you can see that it has got inserted. Now let me write the next statement. Let me just see what data is inserted. Select star from person and then I will just execute it. So here you can see Krish Nayak 31. Let me do one more thing. Let me insert one more record. Now here I will say Krish 1, Nayak 1 and 32. Now what will happen? Just think over it. It will it will insert the record over here. Okay, it will insert the record over here, right? So if I go and execute it, here you will be able to see ID as. So here you will be able to see that the ID has got inserted, right, with 2 because I gave a different value. Let's now do one thing. Let me insert a record with the same value as 1 and then I will say Krish 2, Nayak 2 and 31. Now see, I'm repeating the same ID, right? The ID was 1 over here, then 2 over here. Now I'm going to repeat the same ID and try to probably insert it. Now here you can see that I'm getting an error saying that duplicate entry 1 for key person ID. See, bottom you can basically see over here. I have highlighted it. Duplicate entry 1 for key person ID. Why it is basically coming? Because I have actually mentioned that the ID is basically unique. Okay. So this is very much important. Understand, guys. Okay. Probably, suppose I have created a table. Later on, I'm actually thinking, what if I can also use some of other feature and make it unique also? I can also do that. Okay. So basically what I can basically do, I will probably say alter table and I will add a unique on different features. Okay. So I'll say alter table person. Okay. And basically I'll say add unique and probably let's apply it to the first name, first underscore name. Okay. So probably I will be now able to execute it. Now you can see that alter table add first unique. Let me just go and execute one more query, which is called as DESC, describe the person table, and let me execute it. Okay, sorry, I will just make this a semicolon and now I'll execute it. Now here you can see that I'm having the ID. Whenever I define ID as not null, probably it is, whenever I defined unique also, it is basically becoming a primary key by default, right? Not null plus this, it becomes a primary key. But see, as soon as I added unique on first name, it has now got this key value which is called as unique. Okay. So this basically shows that yes, you can make any feature unique, and whenever you try to insert those values, it should not get repeated. Okay. If you try to insert the same value on those features which is assigned as unique, then you will definitely get an SQL constraint error. Perfect. I think you have very much clear with this. Now the next thing is that I have, after creating a table, first of all, I initialized a unique value. So here you can see that I have initialized a unique value. Okay. So in the first case, I have actually initialized the unique value. In the second case, I have altered the table and added a unique value. Now, what if I want to drop a unique value? Okay, drop a unique constraint. I can also drop a unique constraint. Okay. Now, in order to drop a unique constraint, first of all, you should definitely know that how can we assign an index to the unique constraint? Okay. So there is also one way how we can add a unique constraint over there. And for that, probably I will use one technique. So here I will say alter table person. Okay. Alter table person. Let me add another constraint. Well, I'll say add. This is another way to add. One way I've already shown you. I'll say one more way. Add constraint, and probably I can combine two features and create it as a unique index. Okay. I can combine two features. Now let's see how I'm actually going to show. I'll say unique constraint underscore person, and probably this will be definitely unique. And I can add two features like age, comma, first underscore name. That basically means I cannot insert records which may have the same age and the first name. Like Krish 31, I cannot insert two times. Okay. So once I execute this and probably execute it, here you'll be able to see you have an error in the SQL syntax. Let me see what is the syntax to use near describe. Okay. Let me now execute it. Again, it is saying UC underscore unique underscore this age underscore first name, add constraint UC alter table. Oh, I have used another table name. I'm extremely sorry. Now let me just execute it. So now you can see that the unique constraint is added. Now if I say describe person, here you can see multi One is with respect to first name, it already has a unique constraint, and age becomes multi-unique constraint. Okay. So I can also combine two features and make it unique constraint. Okay. This is very much important. Now, let's go ahead and let's try to see that how we can basically drop a unique constraint. Now you know that I've created this uc underscore person. So can we drop it? Can we drop that entire uh, unique constraint? So yes, I can actually do it. I'll say alter table person and I will say drop index uc underscore person, right? So this is how I can execute it. Now this has got executed successfully. Now if I go and see the describe person, that multi went. But see, first name already has one kind of unique constraint, which is called as unique ID over here. I've basically said it as unique first name, right? So this is how you can basically drop it. And based on that drop, you can see that that unique constraint has got removed. So I hope you understood this unique thing, okay? And probably you were able to understand in a better way, okay? Now, let's see how do we assign the second SQL constraint, which is called as primary key, okay? It's all about practice, guys. You have to practice a lot, right? So I'm going to first of all let's create another table, which is like person, create person one. Okay. I'll just say person one. Later on, you can drop all those things. Okay. So first thing first, I will say ID. It will be of int, not null. I know it should be not null because it cannot be not null. The second thing is that again, I'll try to use first underscore name varchar varchar 25, and then I will just say that okay, this should also be not null because I don't want any null values in the first name, because that is how I can basically identify the record. And then probably I'll say last name varchar 25, and this I can basically use it as let it have some null values in this. And then probably I can define age int. This can also have null values. Now see, let's see how do we define a primary key. Okay. See, if I don't give not null value also, then also it shows as a primary key. But if you specifically want to assign by using a constraint, so I can basically define a constraint over here. I will say this is my primary key. I will name as an index like pk person. That can be a primary key of the person. And then I will assign a primary key with two features. Let's say that I want to assign, first of all, I can directly assign. See, by default, if I just execute this entire statement, ID will become a primary key. I can also combine two features to create a primary key. In our previous session, we also saw that how to create a primary key, right? You can basically say not incrementing mode also. You can basically define it in an increment mode also. That becomes a primary key. Suppose if I want to combine two keys and actually create a primary key, suppose I'll say ID, comma, last name. We also say this as a candidate key. Okay, candidate key. So you'll understand it properly once I execute this. Just see it. So once I execute this, this has got successfully executed. Now I'm just going to say DSC person one. So I'm now trying to just see the. Now here you can see that I'm having two primary keys. Just a second. Too much of queries. If you write, it looks something like this. Okay, very quickly. Now here you can see I have added two primary keys. One is ID and last name. We also say this as a candidate key. We can basically combine two candidate keys and probably create of this. Okay, so this is with respect to the primary key. If you really want to drop a primary key, all you can basically write very easily. You can just say alter table person one drop primary key. That's it, right? Or drop pk underscore person, because I have created this index. Okay, so once I execute this, okay, check that column or key exists or not. A drop constraint alter table person one is already there. Drop constraint pk underscore person does not exist. Pk underscore person, or let me just drop it in something else way. Okay, just give me a second. I'll just check out my notes how to do this. And again, you can search in the Google, okay, and probably you can add, you can do anything. Okay, if I just use this one, let's see, this should get executed. Yes, it is getting executed. I think we don't have this. Now you can see that none of the things are there, right? All the primary key has got deleted. Now one more thing that I really want to do is that, guys, probably I want to see double primary key as basically shown. Suppose if you want to add primary key only with respect to a single column, then probably I can basically use alter table or person one. Okay, and then probably I'll say add primary key. I add primary key. Suppose I want to add it with id. Okay, so by default you cannot see any primary key over here, so once I execute this you will be able to see. Okay, let me do one thing. Okay, now if I execute, now you can see over here. Now if I go and see describe person one, then I have one primary key, right? So this is how you can basically define it, guys. If you want to drop it, just drop primary key. That's it, it is done. If you want to add two primary keys with respect to this, try to add any number of features that you want. Okay, so this was probably uh, until here we have basically discussed, right? We still have four more topics. Probably I will discuss that in the part 2. So I hope you like this particular session. Again, try, practice is the thing with respect to SQL. I'll also get errors because all the queries are not in my mind. I will try to search in the Google and definitely do it. So I hope you like this particular video. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and yes, I'll see you on the next video. Have a great day. Thank you and all. Bye bye.